some day of Test cricket, that an uninterrupted day of Test cricket, which eventually is culminated with a fantastic delivery from Jasprit Bumrah. He has to take at least a few words of praise from our panel with Deep Dasgupta and Daryll Cullinan on ESPN Cricket for Match Day. The numbers are in front of us. 6 wickets for India as we go into the final day and 211 runs for South Africa. Let's try and sum that day up. Deep, let me start with you. India would take that day, especially with how it's ended. Those two peaches from Bumrah, one to Van der Dusen and then one to Maharaj.
Absolutely, yes. Brilliant last spell from Jasprit Bumrah. And yes, those 2 wickets were very crucial. They would need, South Africa needs another 210, 215 to win. Well, could have been interesting had those wickets, a couple of those wickets hadn't fallen, especially with Van der Dusen and Dean Elgar kind of stitching together a partnership. But I think India would be a happier dressing room with those 2 wickets now.
I wonder if those wickets just change things, Daryll, if you have to say, who's the happier team at Stumps right now, because this has been a slightly more resolute batting effort from South Africa than what we saw in the first innings.
Well, it's been led by Dean Elgar again, and we saw in the last series, it was in Johannesburg, where he loves these sorts of situations, back to the wall. It suits his type of game. But can he find a willing partner tomorrow? I don't think they're entertaining any thoughts of necessarily getting that score at this stage, but it's going to require some remarkable batting. Who's left? You got Bavuma, then it's down to Vian Mulder. Anything could happen there, and essentially the tail.
I'd love to pick your brains on this surface, Daryll, because it looked like when India were batting in their second innings that there were more, let's call them nasty deliveries. It seemed much harder to bat. Things did seem to settle down, or at least there were less deliveries that caused the batters as much trouble towards the end of the day. How would you sum up this surface?
Well, it's been known in the past, and I actually saw Dale Steyn make this comment as well, where we saw the type of wicket in the first, 2 days, day 1 and 3, and then it can sort of flatten. But invariably, day 5, you start to see that invariable bounce. Look, we saw 1 and 2 take off as such, if I could call it that, but we haven't really seen a ball go down. But that ball that Bumrah bowled to Van der Dusen was a real peach, I thought, and that was quite remarkable. Because I saw a puff of dust and it came back very sharply. But I think it was probably the ball before which unsettled Van der Dusen. He played at a wide one. You just kind of saw him say, right, that's not where I want to play. And then the next one, he gets an absolute beauty. I think that's got to be the ball so far of this test match.
We've seen Bumrah bowl a few of those, haven't we, Deep? Just give me your reaction to that ball, Bumrah to Van der Dusen.
That was unbelievable. I mean, listen, as a batter, you can't do much. I mean, that was a good leave. It was like 5th stumpish, last few overs, end of day's play. There's nothing as a batter you can do about that. You get out chasing that line, then obviously you're chasing outside off him. So it was a peach of a delivery, as Daryll mentioned. I think, it's just brilliant. What really happens is with Bumrah at times is obviously his angle, the action that obviously gets the ball to come in, but at times maybe the crack or the seam position that just exaggerates the whole angle and the swing movement as well. So I think, anyways, I mean, that was a peach, and obviously the Yorker at 144 k's an hour almost, I believe. That was, I mean, obviously Maharaj was a night watchman, but was good enough for a top order batter as well.
Yes, was there a hint of reverse swing? Did you perhaps see that it may just have, or was it just all Bumrah out the wrist and that angle in? I thought they could have.
Sorry, Daryll. I thought that was the angle, I believe, more than anything else, because I was looking at the ball as well. It looks, and obviously the comms on air were talking about this new Kuka with an extra layer of lacquer on it. It looked pretty good to me. I mean, it didn't look like too much of wear and tear on that ball.
Okay, I'd love for you to also sum up India's innings, Deep. Now, 174 got the job done. It set South Africa target in excess of 300. Would you think there was still perhaps some criticisms to be made in the manner of some wickets that fell, or do you think India came out with a plan and they managed to get the numbers that they needed?
I guess there was a plan in place there of getting some quick runs. So I don't think I think it'll be too harsh to criticize, especially the second inning, because there obviously was a plan. Obviously, they wanted to kind of declare by tea time, giving themselves a little bit of extra time, looking at the forecast for day 5. But I think it'll be harsh to kind of criticize the second innings. They did what they had to and what the plan was.
I mean, the highest score was Rishabh Pant with around a ball 34. That seemed like a breezy innings, Daryl. But there were guys you think playing for some sort of personal form. Pujara played a few balls. Kohli played a few balls. No one really went on. What did you make of that?
Hmm. I agree with Deep. I think India, and it's probably under Kohli's captaincy. I don't know how much Dravid plays a role in it, but with his time with Ravi Shastri, they look to win. I always thought they were looking to play winning cricket. And when you get yourself in a position, I don't think he's a captain that fears losing. 140 odd ahead. There is the threat of rain. So I think it was a clear idea of, right, let's get the runs on the board. I still thought, though, they were a little bit loose at times, going back to their first innings. I think they're going to have to tighten up their batting with the remaining 2 test matches. But I would have adopted that same approach. Here we are. We've got an opportunity. 200 looks like 300. And South Africa just went completely into their shells, and there was no real purpose. I thought India after tea, though, give them credit, though. I thought they bowled fantastic lines and lengths. The message was clear. Come and get us. We're going to be patient out there.
Huge debate on social media, as there tends to be with everything Virat Kohli does, Deep. And one of those being with the way he's getting out to balls outside of stump, whether he needs to take that shot away. Now, do you think that there's any merit in that argument at all, or Daryl's comments and your own of the approach that it was perfectly justified?
If you start taking shots away every time you get out to a particular shot, you won't be left with any shots. So the idea is not to take it away, but obviously get into the execution side of things. And I've been saying this for a year now. I don't think it's a technical issue. I think it's more of him being a little too anxious. We keep talking about him not getting 100 in since 2019 November or something like that. I just get a feeling that he's a little too eager to get to 100, get to a big score. And I think that in that eagerness, he's at times the shot selection isn't that great. That's completely my take. And also, if you look at his initial movement, and Daryl, I would love to know your opinion as well. When there is a trigger movement, the idea is your foot moves first. It's never led by your head, because if your head is moving first, it's always going to be out of balance your body. And if you look at his movement, when the bowler starts moving, his head starts moving as well. So his initial movement, his trigger movement starts with his head. And that's the reason at times he gets into those positions where at deliveries that he would ideally want to leave, he gets into that position to start playing those outside off stump. And again, it manifests itself as a technical issue, but I think it's more of an internal or mental issue where he's looking more eager than what we've seen him at his best in 2017-18. That calmness, to a certain extent, I think is kind of missing.
Daryl?
Deep, watching him in the first innings, I was looking particularly at his head, and I couldn't help thinking as well. And I'm not just saying because you said it, that he does seem to be edging over a little bit. Now, anxiousness, you're wanting to get into line, you're anticipating a bit of pace and bounce, that can play a role. But that's something you can sort out quickly. I'm sure he'll have a look. He's got Raul there as well. But I also sense that, to me, just looks tired. I think it's a mental battle at the moment. His concentration, to get out like that, first ball after lunch, which invariably, you want to set your stall again. It's a fresh start, and then he's had a go at something. So anxiety definitely plays a role. When you're struggling to be in the moment, to be there. He's not as vocal in the field and as excited and as we've seen him in the past. So I think I agree wholeheartedly with Deep about that. I think there's maybe something tiny there which can get sorted out, but also that he's played a lot of cricket. And I was thinking about him this morning. Has there ever been, certainly of his generation, has any other cricketer given more for his country, given more for the game, wholeheartedly than Virat Kohli? And it's been 10, 11 years, and he's carried India's batting. And surely at some stage, you're going to start to feel the effects and the pressures of that. He's got a bigger life now. All these things sort of come into your mix. But don't count him out. If he clicks, he just needs to get that 40-50 going. Then we might just see him unleash. It hasn't been required, but there might come a match-winning moment in the second and third test where we see him at his best. And when you one up Wow, what a good time.
Yeah. I mean, it's there, right? India being touted as favourites for this series against a South African side at home. That's not happened before. But yeah, match situation of the game perhaps warrants for less criticism for Virat Kohli today. We'll save that for another day. As of now, things seem to be fine. Let's get forecasts for tomorrow. The weather forecast is also to be looked at. Maybe some overs will be lost, but it's still not as bad as day two. Assuming we get enough cricket, Daryll Cullinan, how do you see this game going? Do you see South Africa getting these runs at all?
No, I don't, quite frankly, Ronak. I think there's just too much work for a guy like Elgar to do. I don't know how much support he's going to get. I'm worried about South Africa's depth in their batting unless something dramatically happens. I think it's for India to lose. I think it's for the weather to ensure that South Africa will save. But if we get good cricket, I think at least maybe in a half an hour before tea time, I think that would have given India enough time. I can't see any other result unless India bowl really badly, which I don't foresee happening either.
Deep?
Well, obviously, looking at the forecast now, I hope there's at least 50 overs of game on day 5. I think 50 overs should be enough, is what I think. Yeah, I mean, if India would have got 15, 20 runs less and South Africa needed another 180 with 6 wickets in hand, could have been interesting, is all I'm saying. I'm not saying South Africa would have got those runs, but I'm just saying that could have been a little more interesting, a decent partnership of 40, 50 runs. And yeah, but having said that, like I said, I mean, 50 overs tomorrow, if India managed to get, then I think, it should be 1-0 up.
All right. Well, let's leave it there. Let's hope we get enough play for that result, which seems likely at this point, and we will get Daryll Cullinan and Deep Dasgupta's thoughts right at the end of it all. It's a massive advantage taking a 1-0 lead in a 3-match series. So if India do notch it up, then get ready for South African response in the next 2 tests. But it'll be fun to look back on plenty of talking points already in this test match, which is only seen 3 days out of 4. Let's hope we get enough cricket tomorrow, and we'll wrap it all up on ESPN Cricket for Match Day.